You've probably seen me today. I'm up on stage and I'm speaking, but I'm also running around taking pictures and video and running the drone, because it's tough to be the guy in front of the microphone and also be the guy who has to cover this event for your newspaper. Forgive me for running around and doing all that stuff. But being an activist and also being in the news industry has given me a very, very unique and different perspective. Whenever I speak, I want to try and share some of that with you. I get to see how the sausage is made, so to speak, in the news media, and it's pretty flippin' disgraceful, I have to tell you. Most days I'm ashamed to call myself a reporter. Most days I'm ashamed to say I'm part of the news industry, because we see what they have done. We see how they demonize our veterans. We see how they blame police officers for black-on-black violence in our inner cities that they created with their policies. We see them attacking people, as Joe Ligotti talked about, as bigots and racists and homophobes and Islamophobes and every other phobe they can invent when you don't agree with their political opinions. And what this has generated, folks, when you turned on your TV to watch Charlottesville, is those people who are despicable Nazis, those people who are true right-wing extremists, not conservative politicians that the media calls right-wing extremists, but those people who are true right-wing extremists, the Nazis, the pro-Confederates, they've given them a voice. One of the reasons our president didn't want to call them out by name is because he didn't want to give them any credit. He didn't want to give them any publicity, because that's what they crave. But CNN was willing to do that over and over and over. And because they did that, more Nazis found out about the Nazi rallies that were going on, and they culminated together. How disgraceful. How disgraceful. My grandfather was on the Admiral Hughes in World War II. It was a medical transport ship, and it was the Admiral Hughes that, after they liberated Corregidor, after the March on Corregidor, after our brave men and women re-liberated Corregidor, my grandfather's ship was the medical transport ship that transported those who were left alive that were found on the island back to the United States. Now, I hear all the time that veterans don't like to talk about their time in war. And that's true. I talk to a lot of them and I try to interview them for my paper, and a lot of times they don't want to talk. But I was very lucky growing up. My grandfather never shut up about it. And he would sit, and if you would listen for 8 hours, he would talk for 8 hours about every single thing he experienced while he was on the Admiral Hughes and while he was in Corregidor. So growing up, it gave me a very unique experience. It gave me a very unique perspective to know through him what service and sacrifice and patriotism was. My dad became a police officer because we had police officers and firefighters and veterans in our family, and he wanted to serve. He lost his life in the line of duty. So I come not as a veteran, but certainly forgive the expression, spawn of a veteran. My father was a Vietnam era veteran. He was also in the Navy. And when I look back at the way this country was when I was growing up, not that long ago, I mean, to young people it might seem long ago, but it's not really that long ago. 20, 30 years ago, you didn't have Nazis marching in the streets, and if you did, no one talked about it. You didn't have people defending, forgive me for those who might disagree, but a traitorous army that took up arms against the United States during the Civil War. I think one of the things we have to stop doing is we have to stop taking the opposite side of whatever the liberals and the media say just because it's the opposite side. Now let me just give you my perspective. If there's a monument to a Confederate anywhere in this country, it should come down. I'm not saying George Washington should come down. Certainly Thomas Jefferson shouldn't come down. It's totally different things. But the media is not going to allow, the news media is not going to allow us to discuss this civilly. They're not going to allow us to actually come to a point where we can say, yeah, you know what, the Confederate statue should probably come down, but let's stop there. They're not going to let us have a conversation where we can say, our veterans are heroes, don't tell me about villages in Vietnam where people were murdered. I don't want to hear about that. They don't want to have this country come together and discuss our differences. I'm sure there are liberals here. I'm positive with just this number of people here, we have people who don't agree with our political views or the political views of most of us. And that should be okay. We should be able to sit down and have a conversation and talk about whether monuments should come down, to talk about honoring our veterans at the same time, to talk about honoring our police officers at the same time. But because of the media, we're not allowed to. What they do is they make it impossible. What they do is they make it impossible to have these conversations because everybody's so busy calling each other a name. Everybody's so busy saying the people on the left are just a bunch of traitors and the people on the right are a bunch of Nazis and conservative nutcases and Confederates, when 99% of the people in this country are in the middle. But we're not allowed to have these conversations. It's time we start. It's time we start. Start calling local radio stations, start writing letters to the editor. But most important, as my assistant always tell me, before you wrap up, always give somebody an action, something they can do, right? Who wants to listen to a speech and go home? Here's what you can do. Every time you put on CNN and they lie about something, they lie about our veterans, they lie about a war that's going on or an action that's going on, or police officers in Chicago or Detroit or Baltimore, when they call terrorists protesters based on their political opinion, and when they call patriots traitors because they don't share our political opinion, call them out. Take to Twitter, take to Facebook. You know, they have these little bots. They have these little programs that the media uses. And I know because I've been the victim of it, and it searches the internet every second of every day so that they can download and they can see every single reference, if it's CNN to CNN or Fox News to Fox News. And they compile it all. And they put statistics together for their producers. They put statistics together for the media conglomerates that own these news media. And believe me when I tell you, when there's an uptick in negativity towards CNN on Twitter or on Facebook, when there's an uptick of negativity toward the Boston Globe or the New York Times, they know it. And they respond to it. And you see their response to it. So when you're watching the news, if you're reading the newspaper, and you know what you're reading's not right. If you're looking at an adjective where they're describing a conservative as a right-wing kook, or a Nazi, or a racist, call them out. Call them out, put it on Facebook, send an email, because they do listen. And they may not admit publicly that they listen. I'm here to tell you, as the guy who sees how the sausage is made, that they do listen. Thank you, John McDonald, for everything you do. We held a pro-police rally in Methuen a couple of years ago. We put it together in 2 weeks. We thought 5 people were going to show up. John went on the radio. John got us a bunch of people together. We showed up. There ended up being like 250 people in a span of 2 weeks that we were able to organize. And I'm glad that he did this today, because what a great day for all of you to come together with like-minded people who care about those who serve our country, who really and truly understand that it's not a bumper sticker and it's not a throwaway line for a politician, but that it's real. That we have real people who have real pain, who have really served their country, who are really getting screwed. Thank you.